The emergency broadcast cut through every communication channel in the Galactic Council chambers. Ambassador Zethi-7 of the Calrix Dominion stood at the center platform, his insectoid body trembling. His translator device struggled to keep up with the rapid clicks and chirps coming from his mouth. 3 of our worlds are gone, Zethi-7 said, his voice breaking. Not conquered, not occupied, gone, stripped to bare rock. 14 billion of my people are dead. The assembled delegates sat in shocked silence. The council chamber held representatives from 43 species, all of whom had joined together centuries ago to ensure peace and cooperation across the galaxy. Wars were supposed to be things of the past. Genocides were supposed to be impossible. The Vorgath swarms came without warning, Zethi-7 continued. Our defense fleets engaged them. We threw everything we had at them. It wasn't enough. Nothing we did even slowed them down. A holographic display flickered to life above the ambassador. The delegates watched in horror as massive organic ships, each one the size of a small moon, descended on a green and blue planet. Within hours, the planet turned gray. Within days, it was nothing but a dead rock floating in space. We have 1 world left, Zethi-7 said quietly. 4 billion souls waiting to die. Our military is destroyed. Our weapons are useless. We are begging the Council for help. The Etherian delegate, a being of pure energy contained in a crystalline form, spoke first. The Vorgath have not been seen in this sector for 10,000 years. We thought they were extinct or had moved beyond our space. If they have returned, the delegate's light flickered with what might have been fear. I do not know if anyone can stop them. Someone has to try, Zethi-7 said desperately. The Council fleets are not designed for this kind of warfare, the crystalline representative said, its melodic voice filled with regret. We are peacekeepers, not warriors. The Vorgath are a force of nature. They consume everything in their path. Then we will die, Zethi-7 said flatly. We will die, and the Vorgath will move to the next system, and the next until they reach your worlds too. The chamber erupted in nervous chatter. Species that had not thought about war in generations suddenly had to confront their own mortality. That was when the human delegation stood up. Ambassador Richard Stone was an older man with gray hair and a weathered face. He had served as Earth's representative to the Galactic Council for 12 years. In that time, he had learned that most species found humans unsettling. Humanity came from Earth, a Class 12 death world where nearly everything was designed to kill you. Most sentient species evolved on gentle worlds with manageable gravity, peaceful herbivores, and stable climates. Earth had violent weather, crushing gravity, venomous creatures, and predators that hunted in packs. Humans were the result of millions of years of surviving on a planet that tried very hard to kill them. The human delegation would like to speak, Stone said calmly. The Etherian delegate's light pulsed with what might have been annoyance. Ambassador Stone, I hardly think this is the time for— We can help, Stone interrupted. Earth's 3rd Fleet is currently stationed at the Outer Rim. We can have them in Calrix space within 3 days. The chamber fell silent again. But this time the silence was different. It was the silence of prey animals realizing a predator had entered the room. Absolutely not, the crystalline delegate said. Sending Deathworlders to handle this situation would be like fighting fire with antimatter. The humans are barely civilized. Their military tactics are barbaric. They actually enjoy combat. Stone smiled and several delegates shifted uncomfortably. Humans showed their teeth when they were happy, which every other species found deeply disturbing. With all due respect, Stone said, you just admitted that your peacekeeping fleets can't handle this threat. The Calrix need warriors, not peacekeepers. Earth has warriors. You have killers, the Etherian delegate corrected. There is a difference. Maybe, Stone agreed. But right now the Calrix need killers more than they need philosophers. Zethi-7 stepped forward. Ambassador Stone, are you saying that humanity can fight the Vorgath? I'm saying we're willing to try, Stone replied. We've been part of this council for 70 years. We've contributed to every scientific endeavor, every cultural exchange, every peaceful initiative you've asked us to join. We've tried very hard to prove that we belong here despite where we come from. Now one of our fellow members needs help and we're offering it. At what cost? The crystalline delegate asked suspiciously. What does Earth want in return? Stone looked directly at the delegate. We want you to remember that we tried to help when no one else would. That's all. The vote was called. 21 species voted to accept human military intervention. 18 voted against it. 4 abstained. It was enough. As the council session ended, Zethi-7 approached Stone. "Ambassador, I must ask, can your people really fight the Vorgath? Or are you leading your soldiers to their deaths?" Stone considered the question carefully. "I honestly don't know, Ambassador. But I know this. Humans have survived everything our homeworld threw at us for millions of years. We survived ice ages, supervolcanoes, asteroid impacts, and countless predators that were bigger, stronger, and faster than we were. We survived because we never gave up. We adapted to anything, and we were more stubborn than we had any right to be." "That is not particularly reassuring," Zethi-7 said quietly. "No," Stone agreed, "but it's the truth. The Vorgath are about to learn something that every predator on Earth eventually learned. Humans are much more dangerous than they look." 3 days later, the human Third Fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Calric space. Admiral Patrick Lynch stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Retribution, and studied the tactical display. 73 human warships hung in formation around him. It was not a large fleet by Galactic Council standards, but every ship was built to human specifications, which meant they were over-engineered, heavily armored, and bristling with weapons that other species considered excessive. "Status report," Lynch said. "All ships reporting ready." "Admiral," his communications officer replied. "The Calrics have transmitted their defense grid codes. We have full access to their sensor network." Lynch pulled up the data and frowned. 3 Calrix worlds were indeed dead, nothing but empty rocks. The 4th world, Calrix Prime, was still intact, but barely. 6 massive Vorgath motherships hung in orbit, slowly working their way across the planet's surface. "How long does Calrix Prime have?" Lynch asked. "At current consumption rates, 48 hours, the tactical officer replied. "Then we don't have time to be subtle," Lynch said. He opened a fleet-wide channel. "All ships, this is Admiral Lynch. I know you've all seen the briefing data. I know you've seen what these things did to the Calrics. Some of you are probably wondering if we can actually win this fight." He paused, letting the silence stretch. "Here's what I know. We're humans. We come from a world that spent millions of years trying to kill us, and we're still here. We're the species that looked at every other predator on our planet and decided we were going to be at the top of the food chain. We're the species that conquered our own world, then looked up at the stars and decided to conquer them too." Lynch smiled grimly. "The Vorgath think they're apex predators. They think they're at the top of the food chain. They've never met us, so let's go introduce ourselves. Let's show them what happens when they pick a fight with Deathworlders." Lynch out. On the Vengeance, one of the fleet's heavy cruisers, Captain Jake Morrison listened to the Admiral's speech and chuckled. "The old man does love his dramatic speeches," he said to his second-in-command, Lieutenant Kara Hughes. "They work, though," Hughes replied. "The crew is ready. They want this," Morrison nodded. "Humans were strange that way. Other species fled from danger. Humans ran toward it. Other species avoided conflict. Humans sought it out. It was part of what made them so unsettling to the rest of the galaxy." "All hands battle stations," Morrison announced. "Weapons free, shields up, reactors to full combat power. We're going in." The Third Fleet accelerated toward Calrix Prime. The Vorgath sensors detected them immediately. One of the motherships broke orbit and began moving to intercept, trailing thousands of smaller bioships behind it like a swarm of insects. "They're coming right at us," Hughes observed. "No attempt at tactics or strategy, just a straight charge." "That's what happens when you've never lost a fight," Morrison said. "You get overconfident. Let's teach them a lesson. All weapons target that lead mothership. Fire when ready." The Vengeance opened fire. Railguns accelerated magnetically propelled slugs to a significant fraction of light speed. Missile pods launched waves of guided warheads. Point defense lasers created a web of destructive light. Every weapon humanity had developed for ship-to-ship combat came to life. The Vorgath mothership shuddered as the barrage hit it. Chunks of organic matter exploded off its hull. The smaller bioships swarmed forward to protect it, absorbing fire with their own bodies. "They're using the small ones as shields," Hughes said. "That's actually pretty effective." "Then we go through them," Morrison said calmly. "All ships pattern Delta. We're going to punch right through their formation and hit that mothership with everything we've got." The human fleet accelerated even harder. Other species would have been. The Vorgath came like a living tide. Captain Jake Morrison watched on the tactical display as hundreds of thousands of bioships surged toward the human fleet. Each bioship was the size of a fighter craft, organic and pulsing with bioluminescent patterns. Behind them, the 5 remaining motherships advanced slowly, their massive forms blocking out the stars. "They're not even trying to be clever," Lieutenant Kara Hughes observed from her station. "Just pure overwhelming numbers." "That's probably how they've won every battle for the last 10,000 years, Morrison replied. "Why develop tactics when you can just drown your enemy in bodies?" The first wave of bioships entered weapons range. The human fleet opened fire. Space lit up with the flash of explosions. Railgun slugs tore through the organic ships, leaving trails of frozen biomatter. Missiles detonated in clusters, taking out dozens of bioships at a time. Point defense lasers created a web of deadly light that vaporized anything that got too close. But there were too many of them. "They're getting through the defensive fire," Hughes reported. "Brace for impact." The bioships crashed against the human fleet like waves against a cliff. They latched onto the hulls of the warships and began secreting powerful acids. Warning alarms blared across every human vessel as the organic attackers tried to eat through their armor. On the Retribution, Admiral Lynch calmly gave orders. "All ships activate hull electrification. Let's see how they like a few million volts." The human ship's hulls suddenly crackled with electrical energy. The bioships attached to them spasmed and died, their organic forms unable to handle the current. They drifted away from the fleet, twitching and lifeless. "That worked better than expected," Lynch's tactical officer said. "Hull electrification was developed for dealing with space parasites." Lynch explained. "Turns out it works just fine on alien attackers too. Send the specs to all ships. I want every vessel running current through their hulls." The second wave of bioships hit the fleet. This time fewer managed to latch on. Those that did died within seconds as electricity coursed through their bodies. The Vorgath swarm began to adapt, pulling back slightly and changing tactics. "They're learning," Hughes said with grudging respect. "They're trying to stay at range and use those organic projectile weapons instead." Morrison nodded. The bioships began launching fist-sized organic pods that exploded on contact with human ships, some kind of biological warhead. The explosions weren't powerful enough to penetrate human armor, but they were causing system malfunctions. "Those pods are releasing some kind of electromagnetic pulse," the Vengeance's science officer reported. "It's disrupting our electronics." "Switch to backup systems," Morrison ordered. "And get me a firing solution on those motherships. If we kill the big ones, maybe the little ones will lose coordination." "Sir, the motherships are still 300,000 kilometers out," Hughes said. "We'd have to break formation and charge through the entire swarm to reach them." Morrison smiled. "Then that's exactly what we're going to do. All hands prepare for assault velocity. We're going hunting." Admiral Lynch's voice came over the fleet channel. "Morrison, what are you doing?" "Testing a theory, Admiral," Morrison replied. "The bioships are protecting the motherships. That means the motherships are important. Request permission to take a strike force and engage them directly." There was a pause. Then Lynch chuckled. "Permission granted. Take 6 ships and make us proud. The rest of the fleet will keep the swarm busy." Morrison selected 5 other cruisers to join him. "All ships follow the Vengeance. Maximum acceleration. We're going right down their throats." The 6 human warships broke formation and accelerated hard toward the motherships. The G-forces would have killed most species, but the human crews barely noticed. Growing up in Earth's heavy gravity had made their bodies tough. The Vorgath swarm reacted immediately, thousands of bioships moving to intercept. Morrison's strike force didn't even try to avoid them. They plowed straight through, weapons firing in all directions. "This is insane," Hughes muttered, watching bioships shatter against their forward shields. "That's what they're thinking too," Morrison said, pointing at the tactical display. "Look, they're confused. They've never seen prey charge at them before. They don't know how to react." He was right. The bioships were getting in each other's way, their coordination breaking down. The swarm was designed to overwhelm fleeing targets, not aggressive ones. The strike force burst through the swarm and found themselves in clear space, facing the 5 motherships directly. "Now we see what you're really made of," Morrison said quietly. "All ships, focus fire on the nearest mothership. Aim for what looks like sensor clusters. Let's blind them." The 6 human cruisers unleashed everything they had. Railguns fired continuously. Missile pods emptied in seconds, and energy weapons carved glowing lines across the mothership's hull. The massive bioship shuddered under the assault, then it fired back. A beam of concentrated organic matter shot out from the mothership, catching one of Morrison's cruiser's broadside. The ship's shields flared and died. The beam ate through the armor like acid, burning a hole clean through the vessel. "The Dakota is hit," Hughes shouted. "She's venting atmosphere. Hull breach across 3 decks. Dakota, report status," Morrison called. The response came through static. "This is Commander Lisa Grant. We've lost main power and half our crew, but we're not dead yet. Switching to auxiliary power. We can still fight." Morrison felt a surge of pride. That was humanity in a nutshell. Even when half dead, they refused to quit. "All ships, evasive pattern Gamma," Morrison ordered. "Don't give them a stationary target. Keep moving and keep firing." The strike force scattered, circling the motherships like wolves around a wounded bear. They fired continuously, never stopping, never giving the massive bioships a chance to target them properly. One of the motherships began listing to the side. Its bioluminescent patterns flickered and died. Then it exploded in a massive fireball that lit up the entire battlefield. "Scratch 1 mothership," Morrison said with satisfaction. 4 to go. But the remaining motherships were adapting. They began moving closer together, creating overlapping fields of fire. The human strike force found themselves taking more and more hits. "We can't keep this up," Hughes said. "We're running low on ammunition and our shields are at 30%. Morrison knew she was right. They had proven humans could hurt the Vorgath, but 6 ships weren't enough to win this fight. They needed a different approach. That was when Dr. Nathan Pierce, the fleet's chief xenobiologist, called from the Retribution. "Captain Morrison, I've been analyzing the bioship remains. I think I've found something important." "Make it quick, Doctor," Morrison said as another impact rocked the Vengeance. "We're a little busy out here." "The Vorgath aren't intelligent," Pierce said excitedly. "Not really. They operate on instinct and pheromone signals. They're more like a colony of ants than a thinking species. Everything is controlled by the motherships, which are in turn controlled by something called an overmind." "That's fascinating, Doctor, but how does it help us?" "Don't you see?" Pierce said. "They're not thinking. They're reacting. They've never had to develop real tactics because they've always won through pure numbers. But if we can disrupt their coordination, confuse their instincts, they'll fall apart." Morrison considered this. "How do we disrupt them?" "I'm still working on that part," Pierce admitted. "But I'm certain there's a way. Give me time." "Time is something we don't have much of," Morrison replied. Back with the main fleet, Admiral Lynch was facing his own problems. The Vorgath swarm had regrouped and was pressing the attack again. This time they were using different tactics, trying to flank the human formation and attack from multiple angles at once. "They're learning from us," Lynch's tactical officer said with concern. "They're starting to fight smarter." "Then we need to stay one step ahead," Lynch said. He opened a channel to the entire fleet. "All ships prepare for the hammer formation. We're going to show them what human stubbornness really looks like." The human fleet compressed into a tight sphere, every ship facing outward with weapons ready. When the Vorgath swarm hit them, it was like punching a ball of steel spikes. The bioships took massive casualties but kept coming anyway. "Sir, the Calrics are broadcasting," the communications officer said. "They're asking if we need them to evacuate the planet." "Tell them to stay put," Lynch said. "We're not retreating. We're not evacuating. We're holding this line no matter what it costs." "They're asking why," the officer said. Lynch smiled grimly. "Tell them it's because we're humans. We don't know how to quit." The battle raged on for 6 hours. The human fleet held position between the Vorgath swarm and Calrix Prime, refusing to give ground. Ships took damage. Crews worked frantically to keep systems running, and weapons fired until the barrels glowed red-hot. And slowly, gradually, the Vorgath advance began to stall. Morrison's strike force had crippled another mothership, bringing the count down to 3. The bioship casualties were mounting. For the first time in their history, the Vorgath were in a fight they couldn't win through simple overwhelming force, but it still wasn't enough. "Admiral, we've got a problem," Morrison reported. "The remaining motherships are pulling back. I think they're calling for reinforcements." The reinforcement fleet arrived 12 hours later. Admiral Patrick Lynch watched on his tactical display as 1 million bioships and 20 motherships dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Calric system. His own fleet was down to 61 operational vessels. Many of those were running on backup power, held together by quick repairs and the sheer stubbornness of their engineering crews. That's a lot of bugs, his tactical officer said quietly. Yes, it is, Lynch agreed. Send a message to all ships. Tell them to get some rest while they can. We've got maybe 6 hours before those reinforcements arrive. I want everyone fed, rested, and ready for the fight of their lives. Sir, shouldn't we use this time to retreat? His first officer asked carefully. We've done all we can. No one would call it cowardice if we pulled back now. Lynch turned to look at him. Yes, they would, we would. And more importantly, every species in the galaxy would remember that humans ran when things got difficult. We'd lose any respect we've earned. No, we stay, we fight. And if we die on our feet with weapons in our hands. The first officer nodded slowly. The human way. The only way we know, Lynch confirmed. Down in the Retribution's cafeteria, Commander Lisa Grant sat with her Marine battalion. Her ship, the Dakota, had been too damaged to continue fighting, so her entire crew had been evacuated to other vessels. Most of her Marines were scattered across the fleet now, ready to repel boarding actions if the Vorgath tried that tactic. So we're really doing this? Sergeant Kyle Murphy asked. He was a quiet man, a sniper who preferred to work alone and take his time. The kind of person who could wait motionless for hours for the perfect shot. We're really going to fight 1 million bioships with what we've got? Looks that way, Grant replied, eating her rations methodically. Food was fuel, and she'd need all her strength for what was coming. We're going to die, another Marine said flatly. Probably, Grant agreed. But here's the thing. Humans have been facing certain death since we first climbed down from the trees. Every generation of humans before us looked at something that wanted to kill them and said, not today. We survived ice ages by being tougher than the cold. We survived predators by being meaner than they were. We survived disease by being too stubborn to die. She looked around at her Marines. Maybe we can't win this fight, but we can make the Vorgath remember us. We can make them pay such a high price for this system that they think twice before attacking anyone else. And maybe, just maybe, we can save the Calrix. Murphy nodded slowly. That's worth dying for. Damn right it is, Grant said. On the Vengeance, Captain Jake Morrison was having a similar conversation with his bridge crew. I've been thinking about Earth, Lieutenant Kara Hughes said quietly. About home. About all the things I took for granted. That's natural before a battle like this, Morrison said. My first commander told me that fear is just your brain's way of making sure you're paying attention. The trick is not to let it control you. I'm not afraid, Hughes said. That's what's strange. I should be terrified. But instead I just feel determined. Morrison understood. It was something unique to humans. That ability to stare death in the face and feel anger instead of fear. To look at impossible odds and feel challenged instead of defeated. That's the death world in you, Morrison said. Earth spent millions of years teaching our ancestors that fear without action means death. So we learned to turn fear into aggression, panic into focus. Other species freeze when threatened. We attack. The Vorgath are about to learn that the hard way, Hughes said with a grim smile. In his laboratory, Dr. Nathan Pierce was having a breakthrough. I've got it, he shouted, not caring who heard him. I've figured out how they communicate. Admiral Lynch appeared on his video screen moments later. This better be good, Doctor. We've got 6 hours before we're overwhelmed. The Vorgath use pheromones, Pierce explained rapidly, but not like insects on Earth. Their pheromones are incredibly complex, carrying huge amounts of information. The motherships release commands and the bioships respond. But here's the key. There's a master signal coordinating all of the motherships. Something bigger controlling everything. The overmind you mentioned before, Lynch said. Exactly. If we can find it and kill it, the entire swarm should collapse. It would be like cutting the head off a snake, except this snake has 1 million bodies. How do we find it? Lynch asked. That's the problem, Pierce admitted. The overmind doesn't fight directly. It stays hidden, probably far behind the main force. We'd have to chase it down. Lynch considered this. How many ships would we need for a hunt like that? A small strike force could move faster and attract less attention, Pierce said. Maybe 12 ships. That would leave the main fleet even more outnumbered defending Calrix Prime, Lynch said thoughtfully. But if killing the overmind would end this, he made his decision. Start analyzing the pheromone patterns. Find me a trail to follow. I'll organize the strike force. 6 hours later, the Vorgath reinforcement fleet reached the human defensive line. This time, there was no hesitation, no attempt at communication. The bioship simply attacked in a massive wave that blotted out the stars. "Here they come," Hughes said unnecessarily. Everyone on the bridge could see the tactical display. "All ships weapons free," Morrison ordered. "For Earth and the Calrix." The human fleet opened fire with everything they had. Railguns sent streams of magnetically accelerated metal into the bioship swarm. Missiles created fields of explosions. Energy weapons carved burning paths through the organic ships. The humans fired until their weapons overheated, then switched to backup systems and kept firing. The bioships crashed against the human defensive line like a tsunami hitting a seawall. The humans held. "Pattern Delta 7, Admiral Lynch ordered. Rotate the damaged ships to the rear. Fresh ships to the front. Keep up continuous fire. Don't give them a second to breathe." On the Dakota, even though the ship couldn't maneuver, the crew kept fighting. They had weapons power, and that was enough. Engineer Megan Foster had jury-rigged the reactor to output 50% more power than it was designed for. "That reactor is going to melt down if we keep this up," her assistant warned. "Then we'll melt it down, killing as many of these things as we can," Foster replied calmly. She was a woman who understood machines better than people. Right now, she was asking her ship to do the impossible, and the Dakota was responding like the tough old warhorse she was. A bioship latched onto the Dakota's hull directly above Foster's engineering section. It began secreting acid, burning through the armor. "Boarding action, engineering section," the ship's computer announced. Foster grabbed a plasma cutter and headed for the hull breach. "Keep that reactor stable," she told her crew. "I'll handle this." The bioship burned through the hull and tried to push inside. Foster hit it with the plasma cutter, the superheated beam cutting deep into its organic mass. The creature screamed, a sound that came through vibrations in the hull, and died. "That's one," Foster muttered, going back to her reactor controls. In space, the battle had become a chaotic melee. Human ships darted through the swarm, firing at point-blank range. The Vorgath bioships swarmed over them, trying to overwhelm them through sheer numbers. But the human vessels were tough, built with redundant systems and armor designed to take punishment. And the humans themselves were tougher still. When the life support failed on one cruiser, the crew put on pressure suits and kept fighting. When another ship lost its main reactor, they switched to backup power and kept shooting. When a third vessel had its bridge destroyed, the engineering crew took over from secondary control and continued the battle. The Vorgath had never fought an enemy like this. Every species they had encountered before would break under sustained attack, fleeing or surrendering when losses mounted. But the humans just got angrier and fought harder. "Sir, the motherships are pulling back," Hughes reported. "I think we're actually pushing them back." Morrison checked the tactical display and saw she was right. The 3 remaining motherships from the original force were withdrawing toward the reinforcement fleet. "They're regrouping," Morrison said, "getting ready for another push. This time with their full strength." "We can't survive another assault like this," Hughes said quietly. "We're down to 47 operational ships. Ammunition is critical across the fleet, and we've taken over 3,000 casualties." Morrison knew she was right, but surrender wasn't in the human vocabulary. "Then we make them pay for every inch," he said firmly. That was when Admiral Lynch's voice came over the fleet channel. "All ships, this is Lynch. I'm taking 12 vessels on a special mission. Captain Morrison, you have command of the defensive fleet. Your orders are simple: hold the line. No matter what happens, no matter the cost, you hold that line. The Calrix are depending on us." "Sir, what mission?" Morrison asked. "We're going hunting," Lynch replied. "Dr. Pierce believes he can track the Overmind. If we can kill it, this whole swarm collapses. It's a long shot, but it's the only shot we have." Morrison understood. Lynch was taking a desperate gamble, dividing their already outnumbered fleet to chase a target they weren't sure they could find. But desperate gamblers were still better than no gambles at all. "Understood, Admiral. Good hunting." "Take care of my fleet, Morrison," Lynch said. Then his ship, the Admiral Patrick Lynch, stood on the bridge of the Retribution and watched the tactical display as his strike force jumped deeper into Vorgath-controlled space. 12 ships against an entire swarm. It should have been suicide, but humans had built their entire civilization on doing things that should have been suicide. "Dr. Pierce, how confident are you in this trail?" Lynch asked. The xenobiologist looked up from his sensor readings, his face pale but determined. The pheromone signature is strong, Admiral. The Overmind is directing the assault on Calrix Prime from somewhere in this region. I estimate we're within 3 systems of its location. 3 systems is a lot of space to search, Lynch pointed out. Yes, but each time we jump I can narrow it down, Pierce explained. The pheromone trail is like following breadcrumbs. Each reading points us in a more specific direction. Lynch nodded. Lieutenant Fletcher, plot our next jump. Take us where the doctor says. Ian Fletcher was the best navigation officer in the fleet. He could calculate jump coordinates in his head faster than most computers. More importantly, he wasn't afraid to take risks. Admiral, the next logical jump point is right next to a neutron star, Fletcher said. The gravitational interference will make it tricky. But can you do it? Lynch asked. Fletcher smiled. I can do it. Then do it. We don't have time to play it safe. The strike force jumped. The transition through hyperspace always felt strange to humans, like falling sideways through reality. Other species needed drugs to handle the disorientation. Humans just gritted their teeth and dealt with it. They emerged near a neutron star, its intense gravity warping space around it. Immediately, alarms began blaring. Contact! The tactical officer shouted. Multiple Vorgath bioships. They followed us. A swarm of several thousand bioships had jumped in right behind the human fleet. Either they had been trailing Lynch's force or the Overmind had realized what the humans were doing and sent pursuit. Evasive maneuvers, Lynch ordered. Use the neutron star's gravity well. They want to follow us? Let's see if they can handle the physics. Fletcher immediately understood. He began plotting a course that would slingshot the human ships around the neutron star, using its gravity to accelerate them to incredible speeds. It was a maneuver that required split-second timing and perfect calculations. The Vorgath bioships tried to follow. They weren't built for this kind of precision flying. Several dozen were pulled into the neutron star's gravity and crushed. Others tried to compensate and ended up colliding with each other. The human ships whipped around the star and emerged with even more velocity than before, leaving the Vorgath pursuit in disarray. That bought us some time, Lynch said with satisfaction. Pierce, where next? I'm detecting a massive pheromone concentration in the next system, Pierce said, excitement in his voice. Admiral, I think we found it. Set course, Lynch ordered. All ships prepare for combat. We're about to come face to face with the thing controlling this whole swarm. The strike force jumped again. They emerged in a system with no planets, just a massive debris field where worlds had once orbited. The Vorgath had been here before, stripping everything of value. Floating in the center of the debris field was something the humans had never seen before. It was enormous, easily 10 times the size of a mothership. Its surface was covered with pulsing organic structures that glowed with bioluminescence. Thousands of tendrils extended from its body, each one thick as a starship hull. That's the Overmind, Pierce whispered. That's what's controlling everything. It's magnificent, Lynch said quietly. Then his expression hardened. And we're going to kill it. All ships, weapons free. Target that thing and don't stop firing until it's dead. The 12 human ships opened fire. Missiles, railgun slugs, and energy beams converged on the Overmind. The creature reacted instantly. Its tendrils whipped through, space moving impossibly fast for something so large. One tendril caught a human destroyer and simply crushed it like a tin can. Another tendril slammed into a cruiser, sending it spinning out of control. Evasive action, Lynch shouted. Stay mobile, keep your distance, and keep firing. But the Overmind was smarter than the bioships. It didn't just attack randomly. It predicted where the human ships would move and struck at those locations. It was learning their patterns in real time. We need a new approach, Lynch said. This thing is adapting too fast. That was when Lieutenant Fletcher spoke up. Admiral, remember how I said the neutron star made things tricky? I have an idea. I'm listening, Lynch said. The debris field around us is unstable. If we could lure the Overmind closer to the densest parts and then destabilize it further with weapons fire, we could create a cascade effect. Turn the debris into a weapon. Lynch considered this. That would require flying through an actively collapsing debris field while being chased by an angry planet-sized monster. Yes, sir, Fletcher agreed. I love it, Lynch said. All ships, follow the retribution. We're going to thread the needle. The human strike force dove into the debris field. Ancient asteroids and planetary fragments filled the space around them. Fletcher plotted a course through the chaos that would make most pilots physically sick just looking at it. The Overmind followed, its massive tendrils clearing a path through the debris. Now, Lynch ordered, all ships target the largest debris clusters around the Overmind. Destabilize everything you can. The humans opened fire on the debris itself. Asteroids exploded, sending fragments flying in all directions. Planetary chunks were knocked out of their stable orbits. The entire debris field began to collapse inward, drawn by the complex gravitational interactions. And the Overmind was right in the middle of it. Debris slammed into the creature from all directions. Its tendrils whipped wildly, trying to deflect the incoming material, but there was too much of it. The Overmind began taking damage, its bioluminescent patterns flickering. It's working, Pierce shouted, but it's trying to escape. We need to keep it contained. All ships form a perimeter, Lynch ordered. Don't let it get away, keep driving it back into the debris field. The human ships spread out, herding the Overmind like wolves hunting a mammoth. Every time it tried to break free, they hit it with everything they had, forcing it back into the crushing debris. But the Overmind was fighting back desperately now. One tendril caught the human cruiser Defiance and tore it in half. Another tendril smashed through the frigate Liberty, leaving only wreckage. We're losing ships, Lynch's tactical officer reported. We can't sustain this much longer. Lynch knew he was right. They had to end this soon, or they would all die here. He looked at the tactical display and made a decision. All ships on my mark, concentrate all fire on one section of the Overmind. We're going to burn right through it. Fletcher, plot us a course straight at that thing. We're going to ram it if we have to. Sir? Fletcher said, making sure he'd heard correctly. You heard me, Lynch said calmly. Sometimes the only way to kill a monster is to walk right up to it and punch it in the face, or in this case, shoot it at point-blank range. Prepare for ramming speed. The Retribution's engines roared to full power. The other surviving human ships followed suit, all of them accelerating directly at the Overmind. The creature saw them, coming, and directed all its tendrils at the approaching threat. But the humans didn't deviate from their course. They flew straight into the attack, taking hits, losing shields, but never slowing down. All weapons, continuous fire, Lynch ordered. Everything we've got. The human ships opened up at close range, their weapons tearing into the Overmind's central mass. Railguns fired until the barrels melted. Missiles detonated in rapid succession. Energy weapons carved deep wounds into the organic tissue. The Retribution was in the lead, taking the brunt of the Overmind's counterattack. A tendril smashed through the forward hull, venting 3 decks to space. Another tendril tore off the port nacelle. Shields down. Hull breaches across the ship, the damage control officer reported. I don't care, Lynch shouted. Keep firing. We're ending this. The Retribution punched through a tendril and emerged on the other side, still firing. The ship was falling apart around them, but the crew kept fighting. Then, suddenly, the Overmind's bioluminescent patterns went dark. The creature stopped moving. Its tendrils went limp. Across 6 star systems, every Vorgath bioship and mothership suddenly lost coordination. They began drifting aimlessly, their connection to the Overmind severed. We did it, Pierce said in disbelief. It's dead. We killed it. Lynch allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. Then he opened a fleet-wide channel. All surviving ships, report status. 5 responses came back. Out of 12 ships, only 5 had survived, and all of those were heavily damaged. Set course for Calrix Prime, Lynch ordered. Let's go see if our sacrifice meant something. Back at Calrix Prime, Captain Morrison was fighting the last battle of his life. The Vengeance was barely functional. Most systems were offline. Half the crew was dead or injured. The ship was surrounded by hundreds of bioships, all trying to tear it apart. Sir, we've lost all forward weapons, Hughes reported. She was bleeding from a head wound, but still at her station. Aft weapons are at 5% capacity. We're running on emergency power only. Then we use what we have left, Morrison said calmly. He had made his peace with dying here. The only question was how many of the enemy he The Galactic Council chamber was packed. Every species in the galaxy had sent representatives to witness this session. What happened here would determine the future of human-alien relations for generations to come. Ambassador Richard Stone stood at the center platform, just as Ambassador Zeth-E7 had stood 3 weeks earlier when begging for help. But the mood in the chamber was very different now. The Council recognizes Ambassador Stone of Earth, the Council speaker announced. Stone looked around at the assembled delegates. Some looked grateful. Some looked terrified. Many looked deeply uncomfortable. 3 weeks ago, the Calrix Dominion called for help, Stone began. They were being exterminated by the Vorgath swarms and no one knew how to stop them. Earth volunteered to help. Today I'm here to report the results of that mission. He activated a holographic display showing the battle statistics. The numbers were staggering. Humanity sent 73 warships to defend Calrix Prime. We destroyed 1.3 million Vorgath bioships, 24 motherships, and the Vorgath overmind itself. The Vorgath swarms are now extinct. They will never threaten anyone again. A murmur ran through the chamber. Some delegates whispered in relief, others in shock. The cost was high, Stone continued. We lost 28 ships and 5,300 humans. But the Calrix Dominion still exists. 4 billion Calrix are alive because humans were willing to fight and die for them. The crystalline delegate, who had opposed human intervention, spoke up. Ambassador Stone, we are grateful for what your people accomplished, but we must address the methods you employed. The reports indicate that human forces used tactics that violate multiple council protocols: ramming attacks, deliberate reactor overloads, close quarters combat using weapons banned under the Geneva Convention of Warfare. The Geneva Convention is a human document that governs human-on-human warfare, Stone replied calmly. It has no relevance when fighting an enemy that wants to exterminate an entire species. You're missing the point, the crystalline delegate said. Your methods were barbaric. You fought like animals, not civilized beings. Stone's expression hardened. You're right. We fought like animals. Specifically, we fought like apex predators defending territory, because that's what we are. We come from a world where everything was trying to kill us, and we survived by becoming better at killing than anything else. He stepped forward, his voice rising. You called us barbaric? Let me tell you about barbaric. Barbaric is standing by while an entire species is exterminated because you're too afraid to fight. Barbaric is having the power to help and choosing not to use it. Barbaric is putting your own comfort above the lives of billions. The chamber fell silent. Humans fought the way we did because it was the only way to win, Stone continued. We used aggressive tactics because passive defense wasn't enough. We took risks that would kill most species because we evolved in heavy gravity and can survive what you cannot. We didn't quit when the odds became impossible because humans don't know how to quit. The Etherean delegate spoke up, its crystalline form pulsing with light. You make it sound admirable, Ambassador. But what you've really proven is that humans are dangerous. You've shown the galaxy what you're capable of when unleashed. Many species here now fear what humans might do if turned against them. Good, Stone said flatly. Let them fear us. Fear leads to respect. Respect leads to peace. No one starts wars with people they're afraid of. That's a deeply cynical worldview, the Etherean delegate said. It's a realistic worldview, Stone corrected. Look around this chamber. How many species here volunteered to help the Calrix? How many ships did you send? How many of your people died fighting the Vorgath? No one answered. That's what I thought, Stone said. Humans were the only ones willing to bleed for strangers. We were the only ones who kept our word. And now you're complaining about how we did it? You don't get to judge our methods when you weren't brave enough to try. Ambassador Zeth-E7 stood up. If I may speak? The council speaker nodded. The council recognizes Ambassador Zeth-E7. The Calrix ambassador approached Stone. I have heard the debates and read the reports. I have seen the analysis of human tactics. And I have one thing to say, humans saved my people. They did not hesitate. They did not calculate costs. They simply acted. While the rest of the galaxy debated, humans fought. While others feared for their safety, humans died for ours. Zeth-E7 turned to address the full council. The Calrix Dominion formally proposes a military alliance with Earth. We propose that human military advisors be offered to any species requesting assistance. We propose that humanity be given a permanent seat on the Council Security Committee, and we propose that the galaxy remember what happened here. When everyone else was afraid, the Deathworlders were not. The crystalline delegate spoke again. Ambassador Zethi-7, you cannot be serious. Giving humans more power, more authority? They're barely civilized. They're civilized enough to die for others. Zethi-7 shot back. Can you say the same? The Etherian delegate tried a different approach. Ambassador Stone, surely you can understand our concern. Humans are formidable warriors, but warriors need wars. What happens when there are no more Vorgath to fight? What happens when human aggression has no outlet? Stone smiled. You really don't understand humans at all, do you? We're not naturally violent. We're naturally protective. Everything humans have ever done, every invention we've ever made, every risk we've ever taken, has been in service of one goal: protecting our people. Our families, our tribes, our species. He gestured around the chamber. When the Calrics called for help, we extended that protection to them. Because that's what humans do. We protect, we defend, we fight for those who can't fight for themselves. Not because we love violence, but because we hate seeing the innocent suffer. And if someone threatens those you protect, the Etherian delegate asked, then they learn why you don't mess with a Deathworlders family, Stone said simply. The council speaker called for order as the chamber erupted in discussion. After several minutes, they managed to restore quiet. The council will vote on the Calrics proposals, the speaker announced. All in favor of a formal Earth-Calrics military alliance? The vote was close, but it passed. 24 species voted in favor, 18 against, 1 abstained. All in favor of offering human military advisors to species requesting assistance? This vote passed more easily. Apparently, even species afraid of humans recognized their value. All in favor of granting humanity a permanent seat on the Council Security Committee? This vote was the closest. It passed by a single vote. The motion carries, the speaker said. Earth will be granted a permanent Security Committee seat. This session is adjourned. As the delegates filed out, several species approached Stone. The first was a small delegation from the Rimward Worlds, a collection of frontier colonies. Ambassador Stone, our worlds are frequently raided by pirates, their representative said. The Council peacekeepers take weeks to respond. Would Earth be willing to help us establish a defense force? Send a formal request through channels, Stone said. We'll discuss terms. Other species approached with similar requests. Protection from pirates, defense against aggressive neighbors, military training for their own forces. It seemed that once the galaxy saw what humans could do, everyone wanted a piece of that capability. But not everyone was happy. The crystalline delegate approached Stone as he prepared to leave. You've won today, Ambassador. But remember this. Fear and respect are not the same as friendship. You may have saved the Calrics, but you've also shown the galaxy that humans are the most dangerous species alive. That will have consequences. I'm sure it will, Stone agreed. But here's the thing. Humans didn't come to the stars looking for friends. We came looking for a place to belong. Today we proved we belong. Whatever consequences come from that, we'll handle them. Just like we've handled everything else. The crystalline delegate floated away, its form pulsing with what might have been frustration. Back on Earth, Captain Jake Morrison stood in a hospital room, looking down at Lieutenant Kara Hughes. She had survived the battle but had been badly injured. The doctor said she would recover fully, but it would take time. How are you feeling? Morrison asked. Like I got hit by a mothership, Hughes said with a weak smile, which is pretty accurate actually. You did good out there, Morrison said. Everyone did. The Admiral is recommending the entire crew for commendations. How many made it back? Hughes asked quietly. Morrison hesitated. Out of our original crew of 300? 147. Hughes closed her eyes. So many lost. So many billions saved, Morrison countered gently. The Calrics are alive because of what we did. That has to mean something. Does it change anything? Hughes asked. Are we still the scary Deathworlders that everyone fears? Probably, Morrison admitted. But maybe that's not such a bad thing. Better to be feared and alive than loved and extinct. In another part of the hospital, Admiral Patrick Lynch was being debriefed by Earth's military command. His strike force had lost 7 ships out of 12, and the Retribution was so damaged it would probably be scrapped rather than repaired. You took an enormous risk, Admiral, one of the generals said. Dividing your force, chasing an enemy you weren't sure you could find. By any